we are here at How to Fail Gracefully. Hopefully you're all at the right place. If you're not, I'm glad to have you here anyway.
I'm in the wrong place.
I'm the object lesson.
All right. I'll just read the panel description right quick here. The panel from Convergence 2017 is back. Everybody makes mistakes sometimes. Maybe you think you've worded something poorly or were misinformed on a topic. And maybe you just didn't think a decision through and something went the wrong way. It happens. But how we react in these situations is what matters most. Everyone can give their name, their pronoun, and what brings them to this panel. Michelle, why don't you start?
Okay. So my name is Michelle. It's her, she, however that goes. And then I'm here because I think failure is a really important part of life. You gotta fail in order to learn, and that's what I do all the time. So
I'm Rachel, she, her. I'm a serial failure, so I'm here to provide the expertise portion of the panel.
I'm Kyle, he, him, and I'm really good at messing up. And it has worked out to my advantage in some really weird ways.
Jennifer, she, her. This is like failing was the only thing I felt qualified to talk about. So that's what I'm doing.
And my name is Justin. You can use any pronoun for me except for the pronoun it, because I am not an inanimate object. I am very animate. Even when I'm sleeping, I move around a bit. So, very animate. And I'm here because it is important to learn from failures, and something that we don't talk about enough. Figured, hey, let's bring this back and talk about it some. So, to start us off, if anyone here has a specific failure of theirs that they'd like to mention, and what they learned from it, and how that was a learning experience, we could start with that, perhaps. I mean, we all learn from mistakes, so...
This work is graceful.
We're what?
it's already graceful.
Yes.
Oh, crap, there was that thing about graceful.
Yeah, gracefulness.
Yes.
Sometimes.
I got the grace down. That is my bag.
Yeah, kind of like Grace Jones, eh?
If
That's
by
only family
that
to me,
you
I'm
mean
sorry.
The opposite of that, yes.
Justin, I'll give the story. My name is Bart Kunkel, and I'm the guest astronomer for the weekend. And I've been trying to build the planetarium for the Twin Cities since 2002. Actually, earlier than that, we started working on this in 1990. And I know before some of you were born, even, okay? So we've gone through...
Let me guess, ever since the old library closed?
Yes, exactly. So we've gone through economic failures, we've gone through political failures, we've gone through all sorts of things. And I've learned a lot about failure and about success. But one of the big lessons is get my ego out of it. It was huge. Once I got to that point, it was a whole lot easier to deal with idiots in the political realm and all sorts of other things. But that was a huge lesson for me.
They're not attacking you.
Right? That's exactly right.
Yeah, getting your ego out of it is very important, especially if you want to learn from it and move forwards. It's a great way to get stuck.
I feel like our entire country failed in, I'm going to say November 2016, thereabouts.
Yeah.
I feel like that was the thing that happened. Did anybody else feel that?
A little bit.
When it happened?
Yeah, I definitely did.
Who had some self-care? I know I did I'm going to call it the Great Unfriending of 2016. Did anyone else cope that way?
That was the time when I failed at being polite on the internet. It's pretty much been from then on.
I think we all did that.
When
Yeah.
involved, you don't need to be polite.
I feel personally attacked by this relatable content.
I had discovered that I had failed some people by being too polite to them, leading up to that infamous day.
When Rachel caused them to unfriend you.
No, that was before we friended each other on Facebook.
Was
even.
it?
Yeah, I started getting people to unfriend me by telling them, how do I put this in a not too offensive way? Libertarianism is a very stupid idea and it doesn't work in the real world.
Yes.
It's a disease
is.
of the mind. I mean, it works in fantasy and literature, but
It's like
not
the
in
litany of
reality.
political philosophies.
Unless you're a what book?
Unless you're Terry Goodkind book. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, it doesn't work there either, but for some reason people keep buying those books. No accounting for taste in some people.
But for me, before then, I'd always bent over backwards to let voices be heard and try to see where they're coming from, to the point where no one was actually learning anything, and some people were feeling that they couldn't be safe around some of the people I knew. And that was a huge failure on my part, because I want people to be safe. I want people to also learn. Sorry, we also tangent easily.
Which is a way to fail.
Yeah. It's late, convention night.
I feel like I watched a lot of people, and I'm still watching it, people who failed in choosing friends appropriately, shall we say?
What about people that choose to moderate dumpster fires?
I feel like me and Justin have some experience in that.
I think that's a necessary role.
That is a public service. Somebody's got to take one for the team.
Burn it all.
And I mean, I don't feel like that's failing per se.
Well, how about with imposter syndrome then?
I definitely feel like imposter syndrome got me where I am with my job. So it was definitely,
Please elaborate.
So for me, one of the things that I really failed at back in college, I actually didn't do anything. I never went out of my way to try to meet people. I never went out of my way to try to get help with classes. I just kind of silently suffered along and hated every step of the way. And then one year I decided, fuck all that, pardon my language, and decided I'm just gonna be a different person. And that actually helped me make some good friends, as well as got me a job that I wasn't expecting to get. So it made me step in the right direction.
I feel
Before
like
we
I
go
have
forward,
experience too. So
let's just define what imposter syndrome is for those who don't know. It is a concept describing individuals who are marked by an inability to internalize their accomplishments. So a persistent fear of being exposed as a fraud. Maybe good at doing something, you feel that you're not good at it, and therefore you believe that you're going to continue being terrible at it, and someone will point out that you're actually really bad at the thing that you're good at. So, I'm sorry.
So there was a recent cartoon of characters introducing a woman. Oh, she's the foremost expert on imposter syndrome, and she says, "Oh no, not really." Oh.
Since I'm certain we've all dealt with imposter syndrome, and you've already started this off, would anybody else like to talk about how they've managed imposter syndrome?
Here's something where I fail. I don't really manage imposter syndrome. I've done a lot of really, if I'm looking at it from the outside, I've done a lot of really awesome things with my life. I've spoken in places that I've never thought I'd go. I've been to the other side of the planet. I've been involved with projects that have made a very real difference in the world. And I haven't done anything. I just showed up to a meeting. I just pitched an idea. And I don't really see my own accomplishments. Now, on the other hand, if somebody else did those same things, oh my God, that is the coolest thing ever. You are so amazing. You're just destined. But I don't know. And I feel like this might be a good point to point out where failure could happen, and as far as handling it gracefully. In all honesty, I signed up for this panel, like, hey, that sounds kind of cool, and I recently went through a string of failures in some credentialing exams, and I just wrapped up my third semester at Dunwoody in computer networking. I decided, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and take some exams. I took my A+ exam a year and a half ago. I took both exams the same day. I passed on the first try, and I went in thinking, you know what, the next exam will be perfect. I'll take Network Plus. I'll take the first part of the CCNA, I'll take these Microsoft exams, and I failed every single one. Then I went back, and I took 2 of them again, and failed them again. Yep, it was humbling. And taking the ego out of it, and looking at it merely as, there's growth to be had here. It's not so much, it's a failure, although it's so much money. But
So
there's the chance to grow.
You feel like now you understand where you need to learn, what you need to learn.
Yep, I definitely
Yeah.
understand that, and I know that just because I was smart, well, okay, that's not the right word. Just because I was
Capable.
bold and kind of reckless and succeeded last time doesn't mean I'm going to every time. Bravado is not a substitute for preparation.
But like also for-profit colleges can suck my balls.
Yeah, no, fuck for
Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dunwoody's nonprofit.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
All right then,
Dunwoody
but
has a very
still.
long- has a long history.
Trade schools. Saying.
Yeah.
It's a good thing that exists. They just.
And I can go back.
If we're talking about people who fail trade schools.
So I'm in a program that has a 100% placement rate in field within 6 months. I
The
have,
trade school I went to went out of business.
yeah, and that
Yeah.
sucks. And the reason that my program exists because NEI went out of business and was absorbed into Dunwoody. So
Well, see, so you know you're reaping the harvest of someone else's fail. It's good though.
yeah,
Make hay while the sun shines.
Dunwoody-
really bad at this, sorry.
Dunwoody is the premier trade school in the Twin Cities.
Mhm.
It has the longest history, and I never went there, but I can tell you it's been there since before most of the rest of you were born,
Mhm.
and it has the best reputation of any.
And I just found out recently, again going off on a tangent, Dunwoody was founded as to provide education in a trade to anybody for free.
Right.
Yep, and I thought that was pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. Too bad we don't do that as a society anymore.
Yeah, that's not how it works
It's
anymore.
become so
Yeah.
expensive to run a school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice?
What was the question that I asked that started this again?
But anyway.
Imposter syndrome.
Imposter
Yes.
syndrome.
I thought that was interesting because it's so easy in school to take things that are easy,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
and you go through them and you feel like, oh, I'm really succeeding, but you're not really doing much until you hit something that's hard.
Yep.
Would anybody else like to speak about their dealings with imposter syndrome before we move forwards?
I always have, I think this qualifies, I always have where, I always think I'm not smart. Like, I'll feel dumb or I'll feel like I don't know as much as I think I do, like I don't know as much as other people talking or something, so I let myself get kind of pushed out of conversations and stuff like that, because, I'm like, oh, everybody must be way smarter than I am, and no, I don't want to talk. So I haven't quite found a graceful way around that yet.
Yeah,
I'm
that
working on it.
that is very difficult. But there are ways to deal with imposter syndrome. Has anybody here really found a way that is useful for them, at least, to deal with imposter syndrome?
Run screaming into the night.
Okay, so a little over a year ago,
Mhm.
I was in the middle of a divorce. Yay! And at this side of the room knows my ex. But at the same time I was doing that, the business that I was working for said, hey, I'm moving to Oregon. I don't want to run this business anymore. Do you want it? And I said, fuck do I know about running a business? I don't even have a college degree. And the person who owns the business said, you got this? You know how to do all the things? You deserve something good to happen to you. You can do this. I own a business now.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's a tech business, so when I show up to, I repair cell phones, shatterbuggy.com if you broke your own phone, call me. But I mean, I look like this, and dudes are like, "Are you sure you know what you're doing?" Yes, I super do know what I'm doing. I'm actually really good at it. You know, and I'm like, yes. You know what? I bought pink toolboxes. I am a girl. I wear as much makeup as I feel like, and I will fix your iPhone in 7 minutes. Like, pretty much the way I deal with imposter syndrome is with 2 middle fingers raised high. Say, like, you know what? I can do this.
What steps did you take to come to that realization?
Pretty much it's do or die. That's what I say. I'm like, I can freak out and say, oh, I don't know how to do this. Oh, I need someone to hold my hand, or I can pay my rent this month. And also, I know what I'm doing. I do know what I'm doing, and I am highly motivated by spite, which anyone who is my Facebook friend might possibly know about. Take things that people might think as a negative and use it for fuel.
I will admit, I've seen a bit of that.
Oil is a toxic thing, but you know what it does? It's fuel. So toxic emotions are fuel. So use them for fuel.
There's 2 hands up over here.
Let's talk about essential oils.
Boy, do I have a business opportunity for you.
Inbox me, hon.
So, like, a genuine way that I dealt with it is asking for, like, honest, candid feedback from people in the field that is relevant, that you're, like, dealing with, whose abilities you respect a lot, or work with you and know. If you can, I mean, a lot of times it'll come in the form of like your yearly review or something, or if you don't have something like that, just asking, hey, I want to like, you don't have to tell them you have imposter syndrome, you don't need to tell them like, hey, I think I'm a piece of shit and I'm not good enough for this job, but like, being like, hey, I'm looking for ways to improve or to kind of gauge how I'm doing. Can you give me some like real feedback? Don't worry about hurting my feelings or like anything like that. Just tell me how I'm doing.
So one thing I've found really interesting with imposter syndrome is that a lot of people relate it to like job success. And that seems to be the place that it comes up most often, where people feel inadequate for their positions, whatever it might be. But it doesn't usually come up when people talk about like, am I adequate for my friends? Do I deserve the people that I'm with? Or stuff like that.
Well, it makes sense. The things that people pay you for and make your living, that you'd be more focused on.
Well, I also think it's something people are more willing to talk about.
That's fair.
I'm like the opposite. Like, I know I kick ass at work, but anytime I'm in a social situation, that's when the meltdown comes.
Yeah.
So it's kind of
Like
reverse,
anxiety feeling it.
probably.
One of the things that I deal with on a daily basis myself is anxiety. And I find for me that it impedes my ability to ask for honest feedback. Partially because I'm afraid that I won't get honest feedback, either because someone is afraid of disappointing me or making me feel worse, or social standards that are, well, dumb.
But I'm afraid I will get honest feedback.
Yeah, that is.
Does anybody sympathize with that one?
Yeah.
But I feel like if you're already your biggest critic, whatever they say cannot match up to whatever you're thinking already.
I thought that once.
I don't know. I mean, I suck a lot. There isn't a floor to where I think people will say things. Just saying. I mean, my masochism has unplumbed depth. Lord.
So at the risk of saying something insensitive, I bet Justin has things said to him that none of the rest of us have had said to him.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Most likely.
Because of the obvious.
Yeah, for those who will be hearing a recording instead of, being here live, I am the one person here who is African American. That adds extra dynamic because I tend to have to work extra hard to be seen as professionally equal to others around me. And it does provide some fun problems, let's just say. No, it's not fun.
I'm friends with you. I see what happens.
Yeah, the first time I tried to get a promotion at my first corporate job at a place that no longer exists because technology has made it irrelevant, Hollywood Video. I used to work for a video store. I had to deal with the first manager I tried to get a promotion from would keep giving me new criteria to meet so that I would meet what he wanted. And then he would hire on someone else to be assistant manager, and I would try to model what I was doing off of his new hires, which was a mistake because his new hires kept getting fired, so I didn't actually ever improve any. And it took the next manager who replaced that manager getting fired for me to realize that I really shouldn't be taking a feeling of incompetence and actually being incompetent and equating them. I should be realizing that they are two separate things. If I feel incompetent and I'm being told I'm incompetent by someone who's incompetent, that doesn't mean that I'm actually incompetent. I need to go and find other people to check in with for that criteria. In my case, at that point in time was managers from other stores, the other assistant managers, the district managers. The location I worked at had all the offices for the entire region in the basement. So I had access to 3 district managers and a regional manager. So what I should have done at the time, instead of equating feeling incompetent and being incompetent, is seeking other people to check the criteria against and trying to get honest feedback from more perspectives. Took a while to learn that, but...
That's totally a thing. That was the job that I quit before I did what I do now. They promised me every promotion. They worked me to the bone. Basically like, oh, well, the next promotion is going to be for you. Like, here's some managerial duties. Like, if you learn these and do them, then the next promotion that comes up, that'll look good for you. You should totally do those. Oh, hey, we're going to promote this 18-year-old stoner that doesn't know anything, who's worked here for 4 months and that you trained. Do that position you applied for. Thanks for all your work. Could you just go ahead and do 3 people's jobs while we're at it?
Yeah.
It was super gross. They strung me along.
Let me guess. The hidden criteria for promotion was being a white male?
No, the hidden criteria for promotion was someone who worked there less long than me, who didn't have benefits and made as much money an hour as me.
You were too expensive.
I had benefits and they were getting all this work out of me for, $12.50 an hour. And, they could promote some stoner 18-year-old kid who just started, who didn't know about all that, to do all that while I was still doing all that while they were stringing me along. I was being so used. After about the 5th time, I finally got smart after one of the managers put hands on me and used to praise me by going, "Good girl."
Oh, God.
Ooh.
So finally, after they passed me over to the last promotion, I was like, you know what? That's fine. You know what? Fine. I'm done. I'm just going to pick a random job off Craigslist. Whatever it is, it's got to be better than this. And turned out it was.
Was that your current job?
It is, yeah. Someone said, hey, will train, don't need experience. I had an injury. I was super high on pain pills, and I texted him back and I said, hey, I don't know how to do this thing, but here are the things I do know how to do that I think would apply to this. you should hire me. I'm ready. He called me back. We had a chat for about a half an hour, and it worked. I own a business now. I worked for him about a year or two. I used to cry when he would ask for suggestions, and I'd tell him stuff, and he would actually do them. And instead of being like, well, I got to put this through corporate, and I'm going to do nothing and promote this kid that's younger than you, he'd be like, you know what, that's a good idea. We're going to do that. And I was like, God, what kind of people did you work for before?
I know a guy that had a job interview and they said, why should we hire you? And he said, because I'll show up every day. And they hired somebody else. And a week later, they called him back. Hey, the guy we hired didn't show up.
Like, are you busy? I'm like, well, let me see. Did you learn your lesson? What did we learn? And there's somebody else who failed gracefully.
That's amazing.
Right?
I have never heard of that before.
It's rare, but it exists.
Yeah. There's another strategy for dealing with imposter syndrome and, well, dealing with failure in general, is keeping track of the compliments you receive about what it is that you do, professionally, personally, and then using that to weigh against the times that you do fail. Anybody here have any experience, perhaps, with remembering, people have said X, Y, and Z about me, so I can move forwards from this?
I don't think I really understood my worth, at least in a working position, until I started working, surprisingly enough, for St. Paul Public Schools. As soon as I started working over at the Como Planetarium, I just had such an amazing supervisor that really understood my worth in my position better than I did. And he kept giving me new tasks to do, more administrative stuff, more planning. Eventually, I was the one planning the events entirely, hosted for like 300 kids, instead of him doing anything. He wouldn't even touch it because he knew that I had better control of that than he did. So that's one way that I kind of learned to deal with it, through other people, through meeting amazing people. That really kind of helped me figure out my worth a little bit better.
How about using communication to meet with your peers and find out how they feel about you, about how you're doing? Perhaps use it to fight back against the anxiety that comes with failure.
Yeah, then I'd have to talk to people.
Yeah, talking to people is not easy, especially when one has anxiety. I'm on 2 medications for it, so.
You can't make your own neurotransmitters. Store-bought is fine.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ina Garden. You're my Patronus.
All right, so getting back to failing gracefully. There are some behaviors that can be used to dealing with imposter syndrome. Perhaps if anyone's used any of these behaviors to help them deal with it in their lives, I could talk about each one. One listed behavior is diligence. Gifted people often work hard in order to prevent people from discovering that they are imposters. This hard work often leads to more praise and success, which perpetuates the imposter feelings and fears of being found out. Has anybody here used diligence, though, to remind themselves that they are not actually failures at what they do, that they are doing well because they are so diligent with what they're doing?
Unsuccessfully, honestly.
That's how I got through my last year of college. I was just being diligent and kind of imposturing my imposter syndrome and just going in the opposite direction.
How meta.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I used and I had it used against me. Because I was being as diligent as possible, and it was always, well, that's not quite enough. Well, that's not quite enough. That is a way to beat yourself out. Not saying that doesn't work for everybody, but there are situations in which that can be used against you. So that's one of those, you need to do some self-examination in conjunction with it if you're going to do it. And if you suck at that like me, you're going to have a bad time.
But for me, it gave me the possibility to start taking risks that I wouldn't have before. It was pretty much, my entire attitude was like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it. Because otherwise, what's the chance I'll get this opportunity again?
See, that's the right way to do it.
That's how I did it.
Yeah.
All right. Feeling of being phony, overcoming that. So knowing that the feeling of being fake is just a feeling, and looking for evidence of competence or checking in with others for the evidence of competence so that they know that the imposter syndrome is just a syndrome and not the actual being an imposter.
This is where spite comes into play.
Spite is a powerful motivator.
It super is.
Yeah, that's...
All the positive changes in my life have been motivated by spite. That's how I quit smoking. That's how I got divorced from the abusive person I was married to. That's how I quit the shitty job where I was being exploited. I mean, I'm gonna show them all. This is a super powerful thing if you actually follow through on it. Like, that's like a crappy, like, cartoon villain motivation, but you can make it work for you. There's a reason that it's a trope. I mean, there's a reason when I quit my job, the person that was my immediate supervisor got demoted, and there was a 93% turnover that year.
Delicious turnover.
That was a 1,000% spite.
Yeah.
There's a way to make that work for you. You just gotta channel that.
I see a hand up over here.
Yeah. So I want to bring it back to like the actual failing gracefully topic, aside from the.
Oh, yes.
And so, like, just trying to start getting us back into that conversation, I could like give an example of something from my own life, and I had to get like a couple days in me to be able to tell the story. So, I think a big, huge part of being able to feel gracefully, like he said earlier, is just putting your ego out of it and being willing to just shut up and listen to people. So my story was like I consider myself pretty damn, like, I don't like to use the word woke because I feel like it's very like self-important to use it, like
Performative allyship, ahoy!
but like like paying attention to issues of like justice. But I didn't a conversation came up about how it's problematic for white people to wear dreadlocks, and I like didn't understand it. I didn't really understand why, and so like I inserted myself into this conversation, and after like some discussion, however brief, with other people, I was like, oh, okay, well, like there's clearly something I need to learn here. There was something I was missing, and so I was like, well, I'm not going to make you guys spend your day educating me on something that I should know already. So like I went and did a bunch of reading, and like they were kind enough to provide some links, and I was like, okay, yeah, let me read this stuff, and I was like, well, okay, shit, yeah, I was wrong, and there was like a bunch of information that I was missing about this, and
That was beautiful.
a lot of people like to not fail gracefully would be to like dig my heels in and just continue arguing. about it.
Double down and get mean by Rachel. I mean, what?
Yeah, let me be devil's advocate. No, like this isn't an issue that like hurts me. It's hurting other people, and like I need to just shut up and listen. And so that's what I did. And like I feel like if more people could just shut up and listen and like put their ego aside, we'd have a lot more people feeling gracefully.
I made a chart for that.
You did.
I did.
Yeah, you
it's
did.
called the shut up chart.
You made a chart?
Did you? Yes, Marie formatted it for me. It was pretty much the best like thing I've ever done. Stand on that one.
It's very good.
I don't
Well,
know
thank
if it's
you.
just,
It's a good chart.
All right, so let's make certain to stick on failing gracefully for the rest of the panel because we have like 5 or so minutes left.
It's 9:45.
Thank you for
Yes.
sharing that. That was a fabulous example. And yeah, I have not been doing well thinking of examples myself, so I appreciate that.
It came to me like 10 minutes ago. I was like, oh shit, this is like exactly what this is about.
Yeah.
I have a very
So
recent example.
Yes, I remember that. That was a fun,
too bad the other people
Thing.
in that thread didn't do the same.
right? There were certainly some examples on the thread of people doing the not graceful
Out of curiosity,
Yeah.
where was this thread? I want to check it out.
Oh, whose
Was it
post
Holly's?
was that? I think
I think it was on Holly's.
it was a
That was
post.
a
It was a
while
post
back.
about if white people should have dreadlocks.
Mm,
So I'm sure you have feelings about that.
yes and no, but let's save that for another night.
It was a real fun. I think I have screen caps that I'll send you later if I'm sober. Remind me, okay?
Okay.
I'm sure you like
But
it.
another thing, like with, because I saw that whole thread, is I think another theme with the failing gracefully that needs to happen and is like woefully inadequate in culture right now is personal responsibility for one's actions. And I think Jen did a really,
Yeah.
like she took responsibility right there.
Yeah. See, there was a
I do not
dichotomy.
see- I do not
There was
see
a
that.
dichotomy on that thread because there was Jen who said, "Oh shit, let me do some research and learn," and there were other people on that thread that said, "Well, I just think this, and I'm not going to do any research, and here's what I think," and it went about how you think it would go. So it was like a super high contrast example of how to fail gracefully and how to fail so that people unfriend you.
Mm.
So it was good times. But contrast wise, it was a matter of it was a really good example of this because it was someone who made a comment and then someone said, "Well, no, that's incorrect because here's some links," and the person went, "Oh, thank you for pointing that out. Let me go look some stuff up. Thank you. Okay, all right. Yes, okay, this is good. All right, I've learned a thing from this. This is good." And it was a super contrast because someone else on the thread was, "Well, I'm going to double down. I'm not going to do any research. Here's my feelings, and I know nothing about this, and I'm just going to piss everyone off by sticking on it."
And it doesn't matter how anyone else feels about it
Because-
why do research with you?
Yeah.
Your feelings is facts.
So it was a good example of like how to fail gracefully is when someone points out you're wrong, you taking a little of your time and instead of asking someone else to do the emotional labor of educating you, you take some time and educate yourself and say, and then admit when you're like, "Well, you know what? Okay, my initial assumption was wrong. I've looked into it. Now I figure out something else. Thank you. This is good. And now in the future, when someone else is fucking up, I'll be the one going in there saying that to spare other people from having to take the emotional labor of that because they're probably really sick of it if we know them because we super are."
To get back on topic a little bit, it seems a lot like what comes with being graceful in a failure is taking responsibility for yourself.
Mhm.
That for sure definitely helps instead of trying to lay the blame somewhere else or try to divert that attention to actually just kind of own up to it if it's your own failure and accept however it works
Yeah.
or whatever the consequences might be.
And I think it is a very human thing to get defensive
Mhm.
when we fail or
Totally.
yeah. But part of growing from that is not getting defensive and realizing that most of the time it's not about you or it's not about you in the way that you're thinking.
That's the biggest thing I think that's the biggest takeaway is it's not about you.
I wish I could like
Yeah.
frame
So
that
much.
and like throw it into the sky. So
I'm
like, everybody had to
a
stare
cross
at it.
stitch that. This is
It's
on
not
my
all
list
about
now.
you.
It's not about you.
Make the cross stitch several miles wide and long so that we could just hang it up from the sky and let everyone see it.
Just have a permanent skyride.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
That'd be fun.
so many people are well, but not all. Fill in your demographic group here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, also, not just that, but like also, like not everything is just about you. Like
Right.
from both ends. Like it's not about you as in you're not personally being vilified here, but also it's not all about you as in like other people freaking matter. Like your world isn't just revolving around
Yeah.
you.
You and your feelings are like this important and like the literally entire world is like everything that doesn't fit in this. And that's like so much. This isn't very big at all. Like I can only see like one of you when I do this.
Yeah.
And it's you, Jen. It's really pretty.
Profound, Rachel. Thank you. So deep.
You're welcome. You can frame that one.
The time is now 10 till, which means we should be wrapping this up. Before we do, I'm just going to list off 5 ways that I have listed here to fail gracefully. 1, take it all in. 2, ask why. 3, make the change. 4, find the silver lining. And 5, allow grace. So pretty much, first one, everything that was being talked about now with just this dreadlocks scenario. Ask why. Reflect on why things went out of control there. Make the change. Once you come to terms with the fact that a failure has happened, take the steps needed to make this change happen. Step 4, find the silver lining. See where the lesson in all this is. And then 5, allow grace. Accept that, we all are imperfect. And embrace that, yes, we are imperfect, but we are learning and are willing to keep moving forwards and keep moving upwards. Anybody want to add to that? Any last minute questions? All right. Well then, that is officially all the time that we have, as the panel should have ended a couple minutes ago here. Thank you all for coming.
Do you mean we failed on the timing aspect?
Yeah, it's
Will
yeah,
it make it
but
graceful if I do this?
We failed at timing, we failed at a proper-sized table, we failed at staying on topic.
On the bright side, we're on the next panel here, so we're just cutting to our own time. So, have a good night, everybody. Feel free to stick around for the next panel.